All right, so now here is our key component of groundwater. So this is the water that we're really going to be testing for those water quality all the time. So groundwater is actually how most of humanity is going to get its fresh water sources. So we talked about how water is distributed, and of our freshwater resources, most of it is in our ice caps and glaciers. And the next most abundant source of fresh water on Earth is actually in our groundwater. So it's our water stored under the ground that's going to seep in to permeable material like sand and dirt. So we have massive amounts of groundwater stored underwater, but we're quickly depleting them. Now, where our groundwater is stored is in an aquifer. So aquifers are an underground layer of permeable material. So it's, again, usually gravel, silt, or sand. So those things that are going to absorb water. So when we say it's permeable, we mean that water can be absorbed by it. So rocks are not very permeable. Sand is extremely permeable. Now, the reason gravel is permeable is because gravel leaves lots of open space. So when you have a jar of gravel, you have lots of open space for you to pour that water into, versus a layer of like solid bedrock or solid clay. The water is largely just going to sit on top of. So our permeable material is either going to leave lots of open airspace or be a very absorbent material. So silt is fairly absorbent. Gravel and sand leave lots of open space for water to permeate through, for water to enter. So it's an underground layer of permeable material where groundwater is stored. So again, that's how we're going to get our groundwater. So if we're looking at a cross section of the Earth, so we're looking at somebody, cut into a space here in the US, let's say. So we have our aquifer right here. So if this is our aquifer, this is our well that's been dug down deep. Now, this black line right here represents something called the water table. So the water table is really important. So that's as high up as our groundwater goes. So for instance, if we only had water this high, our water table would be here. If our water went up to here, this would be our water table. So however high or low that water is, the top of it is always going to be called the water table. Now, for a well to reach fresh water, it has to go into the water table. So it can't just be trying to draw from dry land. So that's one reason that wells are so deep, is because they have to hit the water table. Now, all these little green dots that you can see, that represents our permeable material that our water is sitting in. So our well has to go past our water table into this permeable material where water is stored, which is called our aquifer. So aquifers are really special because they actually have the ability to filter water. So when we get well water, it's actually filtered for us. So as water moves around an aquifer, as it's passed through all these different materials, as it goes through the dirt, as it's going to go through all these rocks into this gravel or sand, it's actually going to become a really clear, fresh water that almost all toxins and pollutants are going to be filtered out of. So our aquifers are actually a really, really, really important way for us to filter water. So anything that's going to be permeable, that's going to allow water to soak in, is going to help to clear some of those pollutants. And our aquifers do a fantastic job of that.